Okay, Master Mason. Now, you want to see something fancy tonight? We're gonna see if we can juggle some flaming chainsaws out here tonight. Okay, so I've been kicking this one around. I've seen the note on the door there. For big ones. I was kind of hoping not to have to worry too much about Catamount coming back around. I mean, I already did their skid steer one. But also tonight, I want to integrate in some chemistry for a buddy of mine. We go back from high school. I got a degree in chemistry, and I wanted to kind of integrate some of the quantum physics into that stuff for him. Give him a little bit of the Sheldon, integrated interference patterns for this catamount, hearing test for charm and up and down, right? Because we're using certain forms, it's going to pretty much look like your chemistry homework, which silver reduction, recrystallization. You can do zinc iodizing or electrolysis. Sodium, lots of couple ways to do it. Does it break the glassware? Does it not break the glassware? What's the entropies on the piece of paper, really? And that's up and down, spin charm, position of the XYZ of what the steric reaction given those beakers and condensing columns represent. And when you got to put aluminum foil around it too, right? Because you're out of the entrope. That's 0 and 1, why in the periodic table of the subatomic particles. That's why they're all zeros and ones, and they're ons and offs and reds and blue shifts. Because if they're in those positions at that place, you're basically getting nuclear fission, not just a chemical reaction that reduces inside of a timeline with the proper reactions happening at the proper triple points, because of recrystallization is something about this hearing test here. And that's kind of the thing about on the floor too, with training things and laws and all the thing. And my heart goes out to OSHA. Like I said, I love it. It's a foundation that I want to keep around, the IMA, OSHA. It's all NATO though. And it's all napalm. But I have reserve, right? It's always a stonemason, certain mills, the way you were trained, what's the main line for gravity on those things, and being a bit of an old schooler against today's new standards of it. I'm all about in-depth physics, making the safety manual. Your harness is the video you make, and you will live off of this conducted in this triangulation of the hearing test, 50 cal particle slit experiment wave thing. This thing's coming at you at a certain time on the floor. Are you aware of hearing loss? Are you aware of the hedge under the curve about COVID? And that's what a lot about this test is about, seeing that there is standards of COVID in here. Great. I'd sneak up behind him, just try to sneak up behind him. I mean, it's a guy coming at you with the ladder and you running the torch. That's what this is supposed to correlate to against hearing and, any kind of compensation of the reverberation of the air acoustics in here. So are you hearing loss? Do you wear hearing protection off job noisy activities? Well, this is, to be honest, when I answer this, it's hard for me to want to agree with the answer of any of this, because are you going to really test any of it? Does it just decredit me right off the board for needing or having the sue limit on the company? It's like, honestly, to the company, you give me plenty of fringe benefits. You just don't, the triangulation on what those reciprocate to these pieces of paper aren't really there against the board when somebody walks out. And what's the timelines? What's the fair thing? Delhi workforce, prison systems, the educational standard, and the readjusted freedoms of discriminating, the mass of getting the problem wrong here at the Olympics. This is stuff fire. And it's about needing some judges for certain areas. They kind of, it's just like Kelk all the time makes you a Supreme Court judge, because bang, here's that law based on the file cabinet. That variation of that problem is, do you have dizziness or balance problem? Sharps, is all right. When and where right now could, what, is there anything I can physically do to trigger that X, Y, Z? Because I'm going to say yes or no, on or off, 0 or 1 in the chemistry. Standard model says the charm is going to go right to some kind of law, and law goes to everything on the floor, because then you're the mass on that particle. If that changes, it adjusts certain things, timelines and outputs and things like that are graftable. They're totally graftable, timelineable, trackable, doable on that standard, plus on the back end off of the net gross of any form of that, yes or no. goes to the case. Um, do you have ringing or roaring in the ears? Well, when you're that close to the saws, usually, uh, even if you have ear protection on, it's usually pretty dangerous. Uh, but over long term experience, I mean, what it does is it starts to have you need to close off that distance and test those things after a while, anyways. When I'm bringing this back to you, it's not just about, there's a whole EM field when that thing is on that says like this red area is your ohms limit, but that's your, Bell's law or something, like maybe, decibels, that's the one I'm looking for. And that's the limit, and that's like your worker function, and that's like the chemistry, because your decibels are how many molar chemistry responses that you want. Yeah, I'll try to kick one up there and keep it going. This is the chem lab too in the brownie factory, right? The thermodynamics is what makes it the cake, because you can eat batter and just squirt it out of the bag and eat it in your face, but that doesn't wave function sound to the mass. It's one of those things again, when you're training correctly, there's going to be, a lot of that's going to take care of itself, because it's hard to generalize my board without a test, and that's on the ear here, 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 and I have to play fair by that standard, not just somebody running up on me. Hey, testing each other in the middle. We're pretty good usually. I mean, there's stuff on the floor. It's like I said, I'd love to, have Billy just run sets for me. See me on the last rock, have the thing set up, ready for me to just catch over, pull the air crane over, bang, another stack in the morning. Leave that one in back, Maybe he's out, and we're just run and rock. And in here, that's, do you have exposure to firearms? So essentially all day, yes. And that makes a lot of noise against a lot of other fields that you guys don't give a damn shit about. Do you take prescription drugs? Have you ever served in the military? So right off the board, they're pretty much trying to qualify you or disqualify you off a yes or no, and any of those standards could say, well, that medication makes this, Your Honor, speculative, and the district attorney against the Supreme Court has to prove otherwise on that. And the truth of the matter was, you never asked them to put on their hearing protecting. You were always by them in it. You have incident reports on the floor. You have the sensible common sense models in places to put those things and do that thing. And that's why, we got to have gatekeepers. That's why Catamount up here consulting, I really appreciated that N1 in terms of this is what the standard is over to Gustin's. And I got to go out and see the skid steers and post a floor model version of, you guys are out here right now. You guys could make the safety harnesses right here. You're banging around in the cage, the skid steer rotations right there, floor schematics. You got rotations, dozers coming through. Those are each a subset of operations. The yes, no, this happened, this didn't happen. If this didn't happen in this little box right there, for the center mass, it was up here, down here, could have been close to almost, but maybe on that tone, really. I mean, I need something more realistic to a sound, at least. You heard the birdie way off. What's the distance? How far can you keep hearing that off? And kind of correlate that distance to points. And it might give you a better correlation. Oh, well, this ear can hear a tone. This one can hear a tone. And that's good. That's a good way to do it. Add some dimension to that. If you give that a Y, a Tweety bird from a distance, that's going to give me some location on where they really are in terms of what this is. Both are graftable at that point, and I can kind of tell you, well, this person is about marked here. Any long-term exposure has definitely come from this. You have to pay out a little different. And tell them it's for this. That was what this number was for. It was for you on that. And so whether it be whatever reason, that squares it up. Where calculus is. We're good to go here. Pyramid triangle, ability, stability, bolted this thing on there. OSHA, MSHA, the company, me. We're good. Got you on that. I hope you're good with the chemistry. Like I said, sodium, glassware reductions, silver nitrate, any kind of, the condenser columns are kind of the ways we parallel the yes, no's, 1 zeros. Does it have charm? So that charm becomes a whole element, right? And it only takes, they're very water soluble or toluene soluble. And so in what game of chess, black and white entropy on the Mil4 for programs, all of them share that to like a source code, which is in mathematics, computer programming, n1 half. N1 half, XYZ, X apostrophe, and a matrix. So that's a real subset. And XY, AB, 0 is kind of like the up, charm, Higgs. Muon, tau, neutrino. It's the XY position of this thing between these two states in a Feynman diagram. Because a Feynman diagram kind of works like your steric reaction and these two elements over here. And so a lot of that happens in a particle slit experiment about things like waves and particles and how these things act in physics. Catch you on the next one.